In today's episode of Civic Education in Health Sector, we are looking at abortions and the laws in Uganda. The legality of abortions in Uganda and the illegalities, the conditions under which one can perform and conditions under which one cannot perform. And then we are going to look at some interesting statistics among the young people in Uganda in comparison to East Africa in relation to abortion. For example, when you take Uganda in comparison to East Africa, you will find that in East Africa, the intended pregnancy rate declined by 17% between the 1990 and 1994 and 2015-2019. While this is declining by 17%, we find that the rate of abortion increased by 20%. That is in East Africa. And then you find that we still have further statistics that in Uganda, the pooled prevalence of pregnancy termination in East Africa, in East African countries, is 7.79%, with the highest prevalence being in Uganda at 12.9%, and the lowest in Zambia at 5.64%. And now we even find that Malawi has the lowest at 3.10%. So these statistics has more other statistics that is related to abortion, because, for example, we find that studies have it that now the studies I'm going to give you, the references, you can get them from the Gatmacha Institute, that you can get them the Gatmacha Institute. It has the abortion incidence and post-abortion care in Uganda. Then we have Uganda Demographic and Health Survey. There's a document of 2016. We have World Health Organization 2016, it has a report of abortion and global perspectives. Then we have the fourth one is Ministry of Health of Uganda 2016, the National Reproductive Health Policy. So those are sources of information that you can get this from. So when we begin looking at these statistics, we find that studies are showing that young women, that is of the age 15 to 24, are more likely to undergo abortion due to unintended pregnancy and lack of access to reproductive health services. That is number one. And when we go to the second one, find that urban women are more likely to seek abortion due to socioeconomic factors and access to services. That the women who are living in urban centers, because of socioeconomic, that is more related to money, and then the peers are more likely to go for abortion because of that. And then maybe the other factor is because there is also easy access to these abortion services. Then we go to the third one, is that women with lower education are more likely to experience unintended pregnancy and then later on seek abortion. Those are women with lower education. That the ladies that have reached institutions of higher education may not get pregnant at the rate that would be for the uneducated, or the pregnancy I'm talking about are the intended. Then when you look at the fourth thing here in the statistics, is that approximately 300,000 pregnancies are lost to abortion annually. That's not a small figure. 300,000 pregnancies are lost to abortion annually, and unequivalent to 54 abortions per 1,000 women of reproductive age. And we should note that this is significantly higher than the average rate for East African countries, and this is in Uganda. So even when you get Uganda in comparison with the rest of East African countries, the rate of pregnancy loss intended is higher compared to the rest of the other East African countries. And even the rate of unintended pregnancy is still higher in Uganda compared to the rest of other East African countries. Then when we go to other things, is that the other statistics is when we try to look at reasons behind these other statistics of intended pregnancy, increase the abortion rate. In Uganda, we find that the reasons behind these statistics can be Some are reasonable and then some are not. But when we get them into percentage form, you find that the first one, reason number one, unintended pregnancy, that abortion is being done due to unintended pregnancy. It is carrying 53%. People who are doing abortion as a result of unintended pregnancy they did not want, they accumulate to 53%. That is to say, unplanned pregnancy, uh, which may result from lack of access to contraceptives or lack of adequate knowledge on family planning. Whatever it is that is causing the unintended pregnancy, abortion that is resulting from that account for 53%. And then when you go to the next is socio-economic factors, it is accounting for 21% of abortion rates in Uganda. Socio-economic factors, that is poverty, lack of education, and even unemployment. That factor alone, the money issue of it, accounts for 21%. The poverty bit accounts for 21% of abortion that is being done in Uganda. Then the fourth one is health concerns. Health concerns, this one will now include medical conditions, the health of the mother in relation to the fetus. Those are health conditions, which can be about the health of the baby or the mother's health. It is accounting for only 14%. Now, those three that I've listed are the primary reasons why, they are the primary reasons for doing abortions in Uganda. The primary reasons, number one is unintended pregnancy, number two is socio-economic factor, number three is health concerns. Then when you go to the secondary reasons, the secondary reasons, we have lack of support, which is accounting for 12%. Lack of support can be the absence of financial or emotional support from partners or families. Then when you go to the next one is stigma and shame is accounting for 10%. That is among university students in other institutions of higher learning, that the fear of social judgment, family rejection, or community rejection, stigma is accounting for 10%. Then when you go to the next is rape or incest, it is carrying 6% of total abortion that is being done in Uganda. That survivors of sexual violence may choose abortion due to trauma or fear of raising a child, fear of raising a child that has been conceived through violence. That is accounting for 6%. Then when you go to the next is family planning, it is accounting for 4%. The desire to space or limit children or to avoid having children outside marriage, that is family planning. People who are doing abortion as a way of family planning, that they missed out the other steps of taking contraceptives. They are now pregnant, but because they desire to do child spacing or to the fear of having children outside marriage, it's accounting for 4% as a means of family planning. Then we have education and career is accounting for 5%, that women may prioritize education or career goals over motherhood. There are so many. You can go to the musicians, you can go to women in higher offices. They may prioritize education or career over having children. So in case they conceive, they will always opt for abortion. So that is accounting for 5% of the total abortions that is being done in this country. Those are the secondary factors. The secondary factors are lack of support, accounting 12%. We have stigma and shame, accounting 10%. We have rape or incest, accounting 6%. Then we have family planning as a means of family planning is accounting 4%. Then we have education and career is accounting 5%. Then of course, there are other factors. The other factors can be limited access to reproductive health services. We have the next one being inadequate sex education, that used to be done then by the Sengas and the rest. Then we have cultural and religious beliefs. We have partner or family pressure. Then we have lack of legal awareness regarding abortion laws. So those are factors that are contributing to this high rate of abortion that is being done in Uganda currently. So we want to look at what our laws say, because when you look at the general abortion that is being done in Uganda, the worry is this, that majority of abortion in Uganda are unsafe. The whole procedure is generally unsafe, and therefore it will result into serious health complications and even death for many mothers or many women. Because when you look at our statistics in Uganda, it shows that unsafe abortion accounts for 26% of maternal death in Uganda. 26% of maternal death is not a small figure. It's not a small figure when you come to this statistics. So it is worrying that out of this 26% of maternal death, we see that there's an estimate of 310 to 438 deaths per thousand, per 100,000 live births. That is not a small figure. So that is one. Then number two, we can see that these unsafe abortions that are happening in Uganda can result in severe morbidity, including sepsis, shock, lacerations, and we said the worst case scenario is death. Then it can also end up with infertility. There is also economic burden, of which we know that the cost of treating post-abortion complications is really high. So the major factor here being unsafe. The unsafe part of it makes the rest of the world to get worried about the practice of abortion that is happening in Uganda. So we want to look at what our laws say. Now, about the laws, we said we are going to look at number one, the Penal Code Act of Uganda 1950. Number two, we are going to look at the Constitution of Uganda as of 1995. We are going to look at Uganda's National Health Policy 2010. We are going to look at Uganda's National Reproductive Health Policy 2006. We are going to look at Uganda National Health Care System Framework 2016. Then finally, we are going to look at the Maputo. It is Maputo Protocol. Maputo Protocol. Then we shall discuss that. So I think since we are in Uganda and we know that the Constitution is the supreme book, let's start with the Constitution. Number one, the Constitution of Uganda 1995. What does it say about abortion? We have chapter 4 of the Constitution. When you go to chapter 4, article 22, which talks about protection of right to life. Article 22, when you look at it says, no person shall be deprived of life intentionally, except in execution of a sentence passed in a fair trial by a court of competent jurisdiction in respect of a criminal offense under the laws of Uganda, and the conviction and sentence have been confirmed by the highest appellate court. That is very clear. I don't want to repeat it. Then when we go to 2 is very interesting. It says, no person has the right to terminate the life of an unborn child except as may be authorized by law. So the Constitution is clear, 1995. This is chapter 4, article 22. Number one, it says, no person shall be deprived of life intentionally except in execution of a sentence passed in a fair trial by a court of competent jurisdiction in respect of a criminal offense under the laws of Uganda, and the conviction and sentence have been confirmed by the highest appellate court. Then 2, it says, no person has the right to terminate the life of an unborn child except as may be authorized by law. That is the Constitution 1995. Then, of course, there are other articles that may still affect you, because when you look at Article 32, which says that the state shall, it talks about affirmative action in favor of marginalized groups. Of course, the marginalized groups can be women, infants, and all that, but it can still reinforce this. But the major one is Article 22. Then, because Article 32 says, Article 32:1 says, notwithstanding anything in this Constitution, the state shall take affirmative action in favor of groups marginalized on the basis of gender, age, disability, or any other reason created by history, tradition, or custom for the purpose of redressing imbalances which exist against them. So this may still as well get you, much as Article 22 is very clear that no one even needs to explain it further to you. So that is when we start with the Constitution of Uganda 1995. And then we can look at what the Penal Code Act of Uganda 1950 says. The Penal Code Act, we are going to look at section 142, 143, 144. Because section 142, which is procuring abortion, section 142 subsection 1 says like this: any person who, with intent to procure the miscarriage of a woman, whether she is or is not with child, unlawfully administers to her or causes her to take any poison or other noxious thing, or uses any force of any kind, or uses any instrument or other means, is guilty of a felony and liable to imprisonment for life. So this subsection 1 of section 142 of the Penal Code Act, maybe one vocabulary you need to know is procure. To procure is to persuade or cause someone to do something that is by law. So it is saying that any person who, with intent to procure the miscarriage of a woman, whether that woman is having a child or not inside her, if you unlawfully administer to her or cause her, or even cause her to take any poison or any noxious substance or thing, or uses, even when you use any form of force or force of any kind, or use instrument or other means to cause her to do this kind of miscarriage, the Penal Code Act is saying you're guilty of a felony and you're liable to imprisonment for life. That is subsection 1. Let's go to subsection 2. Subsection 2, still of section 42, procuring abortion. Any person who, with intent to procure the miscarriage of a woman, whether she is or not with child, unlawfully supplies to her or procures for her any poison or other noxious thing, or any instrument or other means, knowing that it is intended to be used with the intent specified in subsection 1, is guilty of a felony and liable to imprisonment for life. So it is still clear. So in subsection 2, it says that even when you supply something, or you get medicine and take to her, or you get, even when you supply something or procures for her any poison or noxious thing, anything, whether it is herbal or this modern medicine, or even with instruments, even just supplying her. But when you know that such an instrument or such medicine or such a noxious thing is going to be used in the action of causing miscarriage onto this woman, whether the woman at the time is having the pregnancy or not, the Penal Code Act says that you are guilty of felony and you're liable to imprisonment for life. That is with abortion that we are seeing is so high in Uganda. So let's go to the next. This is section 142, procuring abortion. What does the next one say? That is section 142, 143, attempt to procure abortion. Now this one here was procuring abortion. We said procure is to persuade someone or to cause someone to do something. So this is procuring abortion. Then section 143, attempt to procure abortion. Your attempt to procure abortion. It says any person who attempts to procure the miscarriage of a woman, whether she is or is not with child, is guilty of a misdemeanor and liable to imprisonment for 3 years. That your attempt to procure a miscarriage of a woman, whether she is with a child or not, you're guilty of a misdemeanor and liable to imprisonment for 3 years. Now, this is an attempt, and they are telling us you're guilty of a misdemeanor, and then in procuring abortion, they said you're guilty of a felony. Now, we have felony and a misdemeanor. For misdemeanor is a minor wrongdoing, and in law, a misdemeanor, if I get you the definition, is a non-indictable offense regarded in the US and formerly the UK as less serious than a felony. Of course, felony is a serious offense. So that's a misdemeanor. That is section 143, attempt to procure abortion. Then we can go to section 144. Section 144 says, supplying drugs or instrument to procure abortion. What it says is this: any person who unlawfully supplies to any person any drug or instrument, knowing that it is intended to be used to procure the miscarriage of a woman, whether she is or not with a child, is guilty of misdemeanor and liable to imprisonment for 3 years. These are things that are very clear. So this is section 144, talking about supplying drugs or instrument to procure abortion, that any person who unlawfully supplies to any person any drug or instrument, knowing that such a drug or instrument is intended to be used to procure miscarriage of a woman, whether that woman at the time is with a child or not, you, the supplier of this, the unlawful supplier of this, you are guilty of a misdemeanor and you're liable to imprisonment for 3 years. Then we go to, that is section 144 of the Penal Code Act 1950. But then maybe if I'm to leave this and then we get to these mothers who throw children after birth already, it's still the Penal Code Act, say section 145 talks about the unlawful abandonment of a child, that any person with intent to destroy the life of an infant unlawfully abandons or exposes the infant is guilty of a felony and is liable to imprisonment for life. These ones who throw children to waste bins and all that, still the law talks about you also, even if we are talking about abortion, because you may say, since you have given birth, you fail to do the abortion, you can get rid of the baby. This is what the law is still saying about you. So that is we have talked about the Uganda Constitution 1995, the Penal Code Act 1950. Then maybe we are going to look at the next is I think we need to first talk about the Maputo Protocol before we look at any these other national policies. So the Maputo Protocol. The Maputo Protocol is also known as the Protocol to the African Charter on Human and People's Rights on the Rights of Women in Africa. This is a treaty, and it has been ratified by 44 out of 55 countries that are members of the African Union, including Uganda. And this demonstrates the continent's commitment to advancing women's rights. And now we should note that this Maputo Protocol, it was the first, the Maputo Treaty, it was the first legally binding document for African continents to put abortion into legality. So it is the first legally binding instrument, international human rights instrument to guarantee abortion rights, and it was adopted in 2003 by African Union as part of the African Charter on Human and People's Rights on the Rights of Women in Africa. So maybe the simple details in this treaty is the treaty guarantees a wide range of rights for women specifically, including right to equality, right to dignity, right to participation, right to peace, but above all, in context of today's topic, is reproductive rights. It empowers women to make informed choices about their reproductive health. Of course, when you talk about informed choices, it means they have been explained to, they have been educated, and they know what they are, the choices they are making. So this is the Maputo Protocol. So when we say that reproductive rights, that it empowers women to make informed choices about their reproductive health. It doesn't necessarily tell you that whenever you conceive you can abort, since every choice has been given into your hands. No, this treaty actually gives you limited abortion rights as women. That not that every time you want you can get it. There must be reasons, because this treaty promotes limited abortion rights by explicitly guaranteeing the rights to legal abortion in certain circumstances. And these circumstances, we have rape. You got pregnant through rape. We have sexual assault. You were sexually assaulted and then you conceived. Then we have incest. Incest is sex between relatives, brothers, sisters, cousins. So at least they try to think about the African culture, because all our cultures do not accept sex between brothers, sisters, relatives. So and then in the other circumstances, when the pregnant person's life or mental health or physical health is at risk, this is still the Maputo Treaty. Then for certain fetal diagnoses, so we have diagnoses where there are abnormalities and the fetus will not survive. So in such circumstances, or when the baby gets born will not survive, in under such circumstances, the women are allowed to make informed choices to do abortion. So that is when we are saying that the Maputo Protocol promotes limited abortion rights by explicitly guaranteeing the rights to legal abortion in certain circumstances like rape, sexual assault, or incest, when the pregnant person's life or mental health or physical health is at risk. Yes, mental and physical, all that is considered. For certain fetal diagnosis, that is it. That is the Maputo Protocol. As we said, it is the first legally binding international human rights instrument to guarantee abortion rights. Then after that, this was 2003. After that, then there came other documents or other legalities that started allowing abortion under certain circumstances. When we look at the Uganda National Health Policy 2010, that's by our Ministry of Health, whose vision was a healthy and productive population that contributes to socio-economic development. Under their health policy statement, of course, we have one, the reproductive health, under which there is improved access to reproductive health service, strengthen maternal and newborn care, enhance family planning services, address gender-based violence. But when you come to their policy statement, number 2, on abortion, number 1, restrict abortion to cases of rape, incest, or when the mother's life is at risk. 2, ensure safe and compassionate care for post-abortion complications. Now, this follows the Maputo. It follows the Maputo Treaty. When you look at it, how it is, it follows the Maputo Protocol. because it is all still emphasizing restricting abortion to cases of rape, incest, or when the mother's life is at risk. And it is still emphasizing as to ensure safe and compassionate care for post-abortion complications. Then when you go to the next, this is Uganda's National Health Policy 2010 by Ministry of Health. When you go to the next, we come to the National Reproductive Health Policy 2006. It still restricts abortion to cases of rape, incest, and when the mother's life is at risk. And it also emphasizes post-abortion care to prevent complications. That is our National Reproductive Health Policy 2006 Uganda. Then when you go to the next is the Health Sector Strategic Plan. That is 2015-16 to 2019-2020. It still prioritizes reducing maternal mortality, including from unsafe abortion. So when you look at the legalities here, you will find that in general, abortion is illegal in Uganda, but the legal parts are provided for. The law provides for circumstances under which abortion can be made legal. And we have talked about all this. We have talked about the Maputo Protocol that is ratified by about 44 countries that are part of the African Union. We have talked about the National Reproductive Health Policy 2006 for Uganda. We have talked about the Health Sector Strategic Plan 2015-2016, 2019-2020. We have talked about Uganda's National Health Policy 2010 by Ministry of Health, that they provide for circumstances under which one is allowed to perform abortion. And then we also look at the Penal Code Act 1950. We also look at the Uganda Constitution 1995. So in general, practice of abortion is restricted to circumstances that are provided for by the law. And then illegalities are so many, and majority of the abortions that are being done in Uganda fall under the illegal ones. That's why our statistics is so high. And I think one major factor is the lack of access to family planning information and services. Because, for example, the emergency pills, which is part of the contraceptives, if mothers, all these young girls 15 to 24 years are able to access it, if they are able to access it in terms of the knowledge, that is awareness by Ministry of Health, if they are able to access it physically in form of the tablets, the injections, all these abortions would be prevented, in my view, because these are too many. And then we are seeing that majority of it are unsafe. They are unsafely done in this country. So we need to pull up our socks as a country. The Ministry of Health needs to step up its game of creating the awareness, do the health talks, do the health talk shows in schools where these girls are, the high schools, do those health talk shows on radios, TVs. The sex education the children need to be taught. Of course, when I say children, I'm talking about these reproductive ages. I'm not meaning the baby